My guest is Katie Dwyer. Katie, thanks for doing this.
Thanks for having me.
Well, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah.
A lot of our guests are people I know, but you and I haven't had the opportunity to meet, so I appreciate you coming and talking to a complete stranger.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I appreciate the opportunity.
Well, we're going to get into the work you're doing today in just a minute, but I want to start at the beginning.
Sure.
Because so many people who listen to this podcast, I think sometimes they think that what we do today is what we've always done. And you've had, like many of our guests, an interesting career path. So I'd like to start at the point when you were first thinking about jobs, when you were a kid, whenever that was.
Sure.
What did you think you were going to do? And then where did you go from there? How much of that became reality?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I am truly somebody who has just not had a strong sense of career or occupation direction, truly probably ever. I mean, I definitely remember, I have probably thought of any profession on the planet and thought I could enjoy that. I know people, probably my mother, because I was argumentative, thought I would be a good lawyer. So no, that certainly growing up, tried on many different hats in terms of dreaming. But I even entering, discerning college and program, I'm part of a community where college was definitely the expectation. So I never really thought about doing anything other than that. But if it's any illustration, how unsure I was of career path, I was visiting colleges I was putting my academic program of interest as mathematics.
Okay.
I graduated with an English degree and I went through 4 majors to get there. So
I can relate. I ended up as an English major.
Okay.
My first program, and I say this literally only partially kidding, my first program was accounting, and I think I picked it because it was alphabetically first and I had no attention span. I was like, sure, accounting's a job.
That's great.
I'll do that. And then I became an English major.
Yes, totally. Yeah. I ended up starting with, and now that I see where I've landed, it maps, but I actually started as a communication public relations major.
Okay.
And I think I did feel like I could communicate well. I've always liked writing. Writing has been important to me. I've enjoyed that. And so I probably just felt like if I'm going to study something, that's probably an area I have some strength. I switched to, still within communication, I switched to journalism when I felt like that was more calling upon my writing interests. And then I think I started to feel the pressure in college of not having a specific occupation in mind. Yeah. And
this is when you're at Huntington University, is that correct?
Yes. So I went to Huntington University, and that will become important in a second because I think, I with some probably occupation selection pressure, I switched into secondary education, English education, probably because it leads to a very specific job.
Absolutely. And that was the challenge for me was I knew that I liked being an English major. I knew that I liked writing. But when I looked at the careers, it was like teaching, I don't think that's for me full time. Journalism, I don't think that's for me full time. Freelance writing, I quickly found out is hard to make a go of it full time.
Yes.
And then I was like, and if it's not those, what is it?
Yes,
so
that's exactly my experience.
I applaud you for being more mature maybe and saying, I got to figure this out.
Well, no, that is exactly my experience. I found in journalism, it was too sort of cut and dry, get to the point. That was the feedback I would get to the point. I'm like, well, I kind of like to not get to the point. So anyway, but I still found my way to your outcome. And that was after I really got into the classroom. I determined that is truly not where my skills really lie. And so, I finished with just a degree in English. But what was happening along the way in college at Huntington was a lot outside of the classroom. I got involved in student activities at Huntington really early on in my college career. And at Huntington, Huntington is a small university, very close-knit community. Huntington is a small town. We're nearby Fort Wayne, but really there's not a ton to do outside of the classroom.
So how did you originally find your way to Huntington from Kalamazoo? Is that correct?
Yep. I'm born and raised in Kalamazoo. I found my way to Huntington to play softball, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is interesting because I did not play all 4 years. Okay. I feel kind of lucky to have found my way there for a reason that didn't end up ultimately being that important to me. But I knew I wanted to be in a small environment, a close-knit community. And so I really kind of looked out in that regard. And I found a lot of interest for me in that student life experience. So, by my sophomore, junior year, learned people make careers out of student life. This is not just hanging out outside of the classroom for a college experience. So I had already started looking into careers probably my junior year in student affairs. And so I had sort of settled on, I think that's a career path I'm going to at least pursue right away. And so that I think freed me up a little bit to finish with my English degree.
Sure.
I spent my whole senior year applying for entry-level student affairs jobs. I had, again, I felt very, I had a lot of value for the small liberal arts campus experience. And the work that happens. It's not, there's a social element for sure, but it is also just a developmental formative experience that I think I feel indebted to. I'm very much a product of that experience. And so I loved the idea of being a part of that. So I spent 9 years following graduation in the student affairs world of higher education. So I spent 2 years as a hall director at Goshen College, another small, fantastic college in northern Indiana. I loved Goshen College. I had a great boss. I've never had a bad boss, which is, I feel really grateful for that. But from day one, I just was given really cool opportunities to learn new things. And to ask questions and to be in rooms that maybe weren't exactly tied to the bare minimum of my job, but was given space. I think we're given space to do that in smaller environments. You're really involved at Indiana Tech. So I'm sure you, to that extent, you can understand that.
100%. I mean, I was the world's worst college student, bar none. And my trajectory of my life, and I mean that very genuinely, changed because of the right professor tapping me on the shoulder and showing me something I didn't yet see in myself. And the right community of people around me who pointed me in the right direction. If not for that, I don't know what I'd be doing, but it wouldn't be good. And that has led me to, while my career should be defined as being in marketing, there's a parallel path where I've been an instructor. I've been fortunate to do things like on the St. Francis campus, speaking to students about career development and some of the things I didn't know when I was in their shoes. Serve on the board for Indiana Tech and really have a passion for higher ed. I feel really fortunate that while I work with a lot of clients and I genuinely love working with all of them, most of my work is in higher ed, and I feel like that's the right place for me to be for many of the reasons you've articulated.
Absolutely. So I, after my time at Goshen, I moved to Fort Wayne to take the director of student activities role at St. Francis. That was in 2015, and then spent 7 years kind of moving around in that student affairs world at the university. I moved up in the organization. My last job in student affairs at St. Francis was associate dean of students. So I worked in those 7 years. I worked in student housing, conduct, leadership, student activities, clubs, all of that. And I feel really grateful for that portion of my career. I do think as I moved up in the organization in that lane, and also I think COVID expedited a reality for me that I would have figured out later. And that is that really I was on a kind of a dean of students pathway, and that is an incredibly important role. The people in higher level leadership and student affairs have to be exceptionally good in really complex interpersonal dynamics. And there are people so much better at that than I am.
Well, that's very self-aware. It may be imposter syndrome. I don't know. But, the other thing too is, and I think, correct me if this is wrong, but there's probably some parallels between the students you're working with at St. Francis and who you worked with at Goshen in that you've got international students, you've got student athletes, you have commuter students learning alongside folks who are from other parts of the world. You have this faith-based legacy, but, welcoming students from, all walks of life. So some parallels there. And that also speaks to the complexity of the job because you're dealing with all those personalities. That's even before you get to faculty and staff. So,
certainly. Yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, I didn't want it to be the case, but I think I did come to admit probably to myself, I think I can bring more to the table in a different role, in a different sector of higher education.
Yeah.
And so, I say I didn't want that to be true because I had built a foundation in that, and I thought I would be in that career my whole life.
Well, there's a little bit of a sunk cost there.
Yeah.
I've put in all this time, and shouldn't I keep doing the thing I've always done? But good for you that you said maybe there's a better way for me and for the people I serve.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was lucky to be in an environment that had a space for me in a different area. So timing was right, as it always has to be, I think. I reached out to our director of marketing, who at the time was the director and still is, and a remarkably important, effective employee for the university. I had worked with her as her colleague, and there just happened to be a project manager position open in our marketing department. So I really started completely fresh.
Yeah.
But did it in a safe environment where I didn't have to learn the organization.
100%. And there's so much value in that. I mean, I'm always grateful for my first job in marketing was when someone took a chance on me and hired me at Parkview Health. And I was literally doing everything. I took a PageMaker 6.5 class to learn how to be a graphic designer. And all I learned is that I'm a horrible graphic designer. I was taking photos. I was doing media relations. I was writing. And just that continuum, as you would get as a project manager, you kind of learn how it all works together.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really a good place to start.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. Yeah. It was immediately evident to me, I have a place here. I think this fits with the way my brain works. And we have a great team. We've always had a great team in that department, and they just there's longevity there, and so there was some good stability that allowed me to come into a new space but learn really quickly.
Yeah.
And one of my many great bosses, my boss at the time, was really, our role. So my project manager and director of marketing really partnered on a very close level, and so I was able to learn a lot from her really quickly. And I think we complement each other well. There are things I will never be able to do that she does. And I think there are areas that just aren't her areas of interest that maybe work more within my brain. So we partnered really well, and I did that for 3 years.
Yep.
And in that role, our marketing department at the university, we have a centralized marketing model. So our department serves everyone at the institution. Yep. We're kind of an internal creative services department or group, but most of our work is tied to admissions and recruitment. Yep. So while marketing is a separate department from admissions, I got very familiar with the admissions side of things. And actually, rewinding, when I was in college and I was thinking about having a career in student affairs, I also considered starting in admissions. I just knew that I wanted to be a part of the college environment. I did not pursue that, but it was definitely something that interested me early on. But didn't do that, and so admissions was new to me.
Sure.
When I entered into the marketing world, so learned a lot just by being in different spaces and being curious and asking questions. And then I had kind of the shock of my life. I had been working with our president for a few months on a project, and he asked me. I will never forget the conversation we had when he asked me if I could ever see myself in the open vice president for marketing and enrollment position. I've never had a moment of more. I did not see it coming. I like to think I see most things coming. That's totally an illusion, because I didn't see that coming, and I felt incredibly moved by just by the situation, and even for that conversation to be on the table. And we spent a few weeks in discernment together, or separately and together on that, and ultimately decided that it was a risk he was willing to take. And
it probably was harder for you to convince yourself that it was for him to take that leap,
yes,
maybe?
I think that's that's probably very accurate. So I moved into that role in March of 2025, so a year ago now. And I mean, here we are a year later.
So how's it going?
Ask me this fall. No, it's going well. I mean, It's been obviously it's a wild shift. It is insane in many ways. And that's in part, I really credit, I think, our leadership for being brave and saying we're going to do things differently than how we've done them before or how we think we're supposed to do them. In my area, so within the marketing and enrollment area, we have 3 teams: marketing, admissions, and student financial services. But really, and this is how we view our university leadership. My role first is to be on a team of people that are leading the organization. And second to that are the functional areas that I manage. So that's possible because we have really good leaders in those areas. And it allows me to not have to be the sole marketing expert. I actually have a marketing expert, and she's the director of marketing, and she's really good at that. And then we have directors in admissions, and we have a director of student financial services, and they're also really good at what they do. And they teach me things. And I think we all balance each other well in understanding. They hold a lot of the responsibility for functional expertise. I get to rely on that, and they get to rely on me for some things.
Well, and it's great that you're willing to be teachable, because so many people think in a leadership role they have to be the smartest person in every room. And my experience, I've tried to do that. It doesn't work. It's much better when you are surrounded by, it's a cliche, but it's much better when you're surrounded by people smarter than you. And what you can do is, number one, remind them of what they're capable of, give them the resources to do their job well, and be there as a sounding board. Sometimes they don't even need your advice. They just need someone to listen.
Absolutely. So that's been great. And you're naming that dynamic very accurately for how it is for us. And I think that's been good. Now, we are at the university, we're in a time of, as you know, there are a lot of pressures on higher education.
For sure.
And so it's not an easy time to be navigating these spaces. We also, specific to our university, I mean, all of us out here are trying new things. All institutions are trying new things, responding to changing demographics. We are doing that by, we went from the University of St. Francis went from 2 sites to 5 sites in some ways a matter of a semester. Now, of course, there's a lot of lead up to that. But that poses some big questions for us in all 3 areas that I have involvement in functionally. Poses some big questions on strategy and how we want to, what is the vision we're casting for this, but also how are we going to operationalize it? And so there is a lot going on. We know, we need to be keeping the eye on the ball of our what we've already been doing, but also being mindful. There are new things, and with new sites and new programs come new student populations with new needs. And so we're all figuring that out. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, it's one of the things that really excites me about being in higher ed, and it terrifies me at the same time, is, I remember not too long ago, the big boogeyman was the enrollment cliff. It was enrollment cliff. And then it's like COVID came along and said, hold my beer. And,
chokes on you.
Then you've got shifts in the way people want to learn. You have, just because of the way the world is in 2026, you've got real questions about cost and ROI, which some are, absolutely warranted. You've got the impact of AI in the classroom. I mean, I explain it to people this way. I'm trying to teach students how to use AI so they're ready for the workplace, not outsource their learning to AI so they're ready for the workplace, and also understand that the workplace is changing, especially entry-level jobs, because of AI.
Yeah.
I haven't figured out how to do that yet, but...
Thanks for doing that hard work. We appreciate it.
Well, if I'm the one responsible, we're not going to get very far. And, you've got dozens of other challenges.
Yeah.
So, there's must be days when it's tempting to say, maybe I could go do something else.
Yes. Well, we all do that, I think.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So for those who, I want to back up for a second, because most of the folks who listen to this podcast are going to be very familiar with the University of St. Francis. But how do you describe the place where you've worked for the last 10 years, if my math is right?
Yep. Oh, that's a great question. Well, what I'll give you is my overarching story of who we are. But then what gets really fun, I think, is since we do serve fairly distinct student populations, we can get granular, depending on the population. But yeah, the University of St. Francis is a Catholic university with its main campus in Fort Wayne. We are sponsored by the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration. So we have a rich, rich history of strong Catholic identity within a Franciscan tradition. That identity for us has actually become really more important over the years.
Is that because of the degree to which it's a differentiator?
Absolutely. And yes, on one hand, definitely. We have decided as an institution from a recruitment standpoint, we do believe that is one of the biggest markers that makes us different. We're proud to be operating from a Catholic foundation. We also, though, our founding sisters are very involved in the operations of the institution, and I'm glad for that because they bring such richness to the way we operate. And I think that they too see an opportunity for Catholic education to really be making a big difference in the environment. So not just as this is going to work and attract more students, so let's say this is what's important to us, but truly to say, culture has shifted a lot in the last however many years, and we believe more than ever this is a space that's going to give many people what they need and what they're looking for, and we feel proud to offer that opportunity. Now, from a marketing and recruitment standpoint, we did make a pretty intentional decision in 2024 to really shift our messaging, not to what's tempting is to say let's dilute some of our messaging to make sure we don't exclude anyone, and we said, actually, let's be proud of who we are because it's not exclusive. It actually is very inviting and welcoming, but it's not nothing. We're not a little bit for everybody. We want to be something significant for the people who want to be in this space. So that was a big shift for us, and I was in the marketing department at that time. And really enjoyed the process of redesigning our messaging and our brand platform with that in mind.
Well, it makes it easier to know what to focus on, right?
Yeah.
And, we had an experience years ago of working with St. Mary's College. And, there's very few colleges that are exclusively for women.
Yeah.
And they doubled down on that.
Yeah.
They said, we want that to be a point of difference. We know that there's a different path for growth should we change what we've always been, but we're going to double down on it. And I think smart institutions like USF are saying, we're proud of our legacy. We don't want to exclude anyone, but we want them to know what we're about. And we want to be forthright in saying, if you're into that, this is a place for you.
Let's take a moment to talk about something that can revolutionize your business. Branding with Asher Agency. Ever wonder why some companies just stick in your mind? That's the power of great branding, and it's exactly what Asher delivers. Visit AsherAgency.com for more info.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Yeah, so we operate in Fort Wayne. Our academic portfolio we have 7 pathways. So we have programs in business, creative arts, sciences, medical studies, and then we have a lot and a growing number of healthcare programs. So we kind of separate our healthcare education into allied health and nursing. We have a rich legacy and history of of producing really fabulous nurses. Here in the Fort Wayne area, and we've expanded that a lot to allied health degrees like imaging, so radiologic technology, diagnostic medical sonography, ultrasound, other surgical technology, things like that. And those are the spaces that we're seeing workforce demands ask for more opportunities in that space. So we have operated outside of Fort Wayne. We've operated a site in Crown Point, Indiana, in Northwest Indiana, in sort of the Franciscan Alliance network over there, health network. We've operated that for, I think, since 2008. And we enroll about 200 students there in nursing and allied health degrees. Have been doing that successfully for a while, and we've taken that model and are doing that now in Lafayette. So this fall will really be our first semester having students in our building in Lafayette. We have imaging degrees in Lafayette, and then some pre-degree certificates. And then we just acquired a health academy. Our nursing academy, Leffler Academy in Gas City. And so now Leffler Academy is part of the University of St. Francis. And so we're operating out of Gas City now as well. So we do nursing and health science degrees there. That has helped us expand our portfolio to actually more to pre-degree options. So now we offer a practical nursing program for students to pursue their LPN. And this era for us, I think, really is focused on workforce development. So how can we take the foundation we have in healthcare, an excellent healthcare education, grow it across the state, and meet some of our healthcare needs that are our workforce needs that are very urgent.
Well, and I think that's very wise because, so much of it today is speed to a career, right? When you look at accelerated nursing programs, when you look at the opportunities for students to earn certificates and go on to great careers, a four-year degree is not for everyone, at least not right now. And it may be that LPN program or a certificate is their first step, but they may not continue their education right away. And I think that's, higher ed for the most part has been responsive to that, but I credit USF for seeing that and getting ahead of that.
Yeah, that's 100%. That's how we describe it. It's a laddering. So you decide, start here, start with your CNA or your LPN, get into the workforce. You can probably do this while you continue to pursue a degree. And if you decide this is enough, then stop there. But what we're proud of is now we can say we offer in the healthcare space, in the nursing space, we offer everything from CNA to DNP, all within the same network. So that's been good for us. And it's been important for us to also not lose sight of we are not just a healthcare university. We have thriving arts and business and science programs that draw a really cool student population here in Fort Wayne. And that's, that continues to be sort of our cornerstone, but it's been fun to expand and do more too.
Well, and I've been really impressed with some of your STEM programs in, just as one example, environmental science. One of our clients is 7Gen, and they really got started at St. Francis. When a few of them have gone on to build a strong business, they're right there, on your campus almost.
It's fantastic.
And I met some of those students and was just incredibly impressed about what they're capable of and their real, genuine passion for making the world a better place in a way that requires real skill and real science. So it's pretty great to see that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm sure you could tell that story about just about every program.
Yes. No. Well, sciences and medical studies is a particularly exciting pathway for us right now in the undergraduate space because they're growing programs for us. So pre-professional biology and all of that. It's been fun to see that grow and be a part of that.
So as you get settled in year one and you get to the fall where you've been through the cycle of everything at least once, what do you see as you look ahead? Where do you want your career to go? I know it's a big question.
Yeah.
What do you hope you can impact at St. Francis? And, in a career path that's had a lot of twists and turns, where do you want to settle in?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Anthony, I feel very I'm going to give you a different answer than maybe you've ever
Sure.
gotten. I remember when I was discerning the question of this role.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, I have no idea if my career aspiration is to be a vice president. I really have no idea.
Yeah.
And I had this feeling like, and it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Because what I do feel is called to this position at this time at this university. And I would say that remains true.
Yeah.
I do not know, nor I'm telling on myself, nor do I really think about what might be next for me. I think we don't know each other yet, so you won't know that this is not my typical language, but I feel called to this role in a way I probably haven't felt called to anything else in my life at this time, at this place. And I feel very, very grateful to be given the opportunity and the resources and the support to try my best at this and to take total ownership total and shared for sure ownership of the future of the university for right now. And I am very excited about being part of a team that is leading this organization at this crazy time. We are not immune to the financial and the environmental pressures. I mean, our institutions are feeling it. Our students are feeling it. We're not immune to those, and we have big challenges ahead. And I feel really grateful to be on the team that's figuring that out and to be kind of for my teams to be able to be a little bit ahead, casting a vision, helping try to break down barriers for them to do the work that they're really good at. And I want to be a part of the university's next phase. I want to be a part of the university being a thriving educational provider at various sites in the state of Indiana and maybe beyond. But beyond that, and in terms of any other career aspirations, it doesn't cross my mind.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I want to reflect back to you what I heard and tell me if I heard it right. It's almost like you've landed in a place where your focus is on using any benefit of the position to serve others, to make things better than where you left them. And it's more about how can you help other people, whether it's students or other staff, do their best work. How can you enable that? How can you solve problems? But the title really doesn't matter all that much.
100%.
And even the job doesn't matter all that much, as long as you have a role in that.
Yeah. And I think what was cool for me about I think you will relate to this. What was cool for me about the transition into this role is I am a go-getter. I think I'm going to will things to happen. You know what I mean? I'm thinking ahead. I'm looking, when I was in my student affairs career, I was like, what if we did it this way? And I can do that. You need somebody to do that? I'll do it. I didn't do that in this space. I wasn't out there willing my way into an opportunity. And what that meant for me was somebody or people saw something in me that is of value to the institution at this time. And I don't know for how long that will be the case, but I trust them.
It's kind of like I want to honor that. I'm reflecting back to you how that feels if it were me. It's kind of like, I haven't even convinced myself that I'm worthy of it, but I'm going to try to prove to people that I respect the fact they saw that in me.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and it's, I think I have a number of years on you, but there was a time in my career, this isn't quite the same thing, but it's related, when I started to say, I don't really care where I go. I'm happy where I am, but I really do care about how I can use where I am to make other people encourage people to be better, encourage them to see themselves like I see them. The inside joke, so my title is Vice President and General Manager, which is completely meaningless. So when I say to my coworkers, I'm going to go general manage some stuff, that's code for I have no idea what I'm doing and I don't know what that title means. So feel free to steal that one. Yeah, for sure.
I'm stealing that for sure. I love that.
So, Katie, I want to pivot to a few more quick hit questions to bring together some of the great stuff we've talked about, some of the great points you've made. So what's your best career advice? This is a little bit hard to ask after the conversation we just had, but what do you think people need to know? And this could be for a student, it could be for someone just getting started in their career. What is the key to a successful and fulfilling career? What do you think that looks like?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
I have so many thoughts on this. You know, it's funny. I say I don't think a lot about my career aspirations, but I think a lot about everyone else's. Because I want people to have the careers that they want. So anyway, I love the question. I'm going to, if you allow me, I'll name a few things.
Yeah, please.
One, for sure, and I've named this in a couple ways in our conversation, pay attention. Be observant about, especially if you're in an industry where your career path is not completely defined. So in higher education, we could be doing a lot, and I'm sure that's true. I'm biased to that industry, but I know that's true of a lot of industries where you have no idea what position you're going to hold at that organization down the road. So it's not that it has to be this calculated, strategic, I want to learn about this because eventually I want to do that, but just be a sponge. Be open to what's going on around you, because you might learn something that becomes valuable to you in a future opportunity. So be curious, be attentive to things that, like I said earlier, maybe go above the bare minimum of your role, but allow you to see other spaces. I think that too leads into, I this is not an original thought. I've heard this somewhere along the line, but I very much recommend to people from a mindset standpoint, early in your career, view yourself like an owner, not an employee, an owner. And I'm a millennial, and I am a younger millennial. And so I'm allowed to say that and not be tone deaf. Because I'm part of a group that
it's easy to say that when you're an actual owner, right?
well, I mean to say, I think, yes, I think there is, I know there are growing sentiments perhaps around what we deserve as employees and all that, but I know you're not getting paid as an owner. You're getting paid as an employee. But the reality is it will make you so much happier, in my experience, and more effective and more marketable and more, sought after, to really view yourself as having ownership in where this organization goes. Yeah.
And if I can add to that, one thing that I think is important that maybe builds a bridge on that thought is that any good business, any good organization is going to want that from you. And if you feel like you can't do that and you don't have a voice, it's probably time to go somewhere else.
Sure.
Easier said than done, but you want to think like you have agency, a voice, ownership, call it what you want.
Yeah.
And you want to work for people who want that for you. And if you don't, it's a signal.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a signal that it's not for you.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I think, you said something earlier about being, you're not the smartest person in the room. One thing I've said, and this is not advice for everybody, because some people need, I think, to have a little bit more confidence in themselves. But some people, I've given the advice, I've reminded some people, it is not your job to be the smartest person in the room. I'm not looking for that from you. I don't need you to have all the answers. I don't even want you to have all the answers. I actually there's all this value we have coming from you, and it's not in knowing everything. And so I do think for more, maybe, what is the word I'm thinking of? People who are really looking to climb the ladder, who want to stand out from early on. That's fantastic. That's great. And just know the formula to get there is not to know everything.
Yeah, I'm envious that you learned that so young. I wish I had learned that sooner. When I started teaching, I thought I have to be the smartest person they've ever met on this topic. And that was a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
And then I learned, and this is true I do a lot of training and public speaking, try to do as much mentorship as I can. And what I've learned is exactly what you said. People don't care whether you are the smartest person they've ever talked to on that topic. What they want is they want your unique perspective.
Yeah.
They want you to be informed. You got to know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
But what can you bring to that maybe makes them turn their head 5 degrees and say, hadn't thought of it that way?
Yeah.
Or you reinforce something important, and to do it in a way that is unique to them. In other words, it's interesting because you're interested in them.
Yes.
You do those things.
Yes.
People aren't going to care how much you know as long as your perspective is informed.
Yeah, I think I work with our executive vice president, and I appreciate in her that she will say to me, I like the way, to me, I think I don't want to speak for her, but I think she is evaluating people through the lens of not what they know, but how they're getting to what they know. So what questions are you asking? And how are you thinking through problems? I'm not even sure I care yet about what the solution is, but when I see in people, you're thinking through it in a way that relies on your strengths. We don't all think the same way. Yeah. So you're not thinking through it just like I'm going to think through it, but you're being thoughtful about it. Those things stand out to me when I look at my teams way far and above somebody who's like, oh, I know the answer to that, or there's an interesting, I think, balance there, and maybe a nuance that I think is good for people to think about early on.
And I think it's one of those cases where it sounds kind of selfless, but it's not. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I hadn't taught in the classroom face-to-face since 2020. COVID kind of wore me out on that. Then I started teaching this fall, and a lot of it was a real heart for these students need someone to listen to them. Most of them come from great families. That's not it. But they need someone who is not from their inner circle, who's going to listen to them. And I need to listen. I need to listen to what their world is like and what they're saying.
Yeah.
So very selfishly motivated in that way.
Yeah.
But it's because the world so desperately needs that right now.
Yeah.
We're so divided. There's so much about technology that gets in our way.
Yeah.
It's those spaces. Quite honestly, it's one of the reasons I do this.
Yeah.
Is just the opportunity to share a little bit and hear back from others how that, what their experience is like.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow, we went down a path there, and I think you only covered one of the things you were going to say.
I think I threw many of them in there.
Well done.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you're like, I'm just tired.
I got them all out.
Yeah.
No, I got them.
All right, second question. So what is a myth or misconception about the work that you do that you would like to debunk? It could be amplifying something that doesn't get enough credit. That could be about University of St. Francis. It could be about higher ed. It could be about all these different roles you play. What is it for you?
Well, I don't get summers off. That's the myth that that is so funny. It's the number one question. When I say I work in higher education, what do you do with your summers? Oh boy. What do I do with my summers? I'll take this question and be very selfish about it and say, the misconception that I want to dispel is that the University of St. Francis is affordable, and we're affordable for students of all from all socioeconomic backgrounds. We at the university have gotten very serious about affordability and not just saying it. I think it's something, I've been a part of private higher education for my whole career, and I went to a private university, and I understand there is all this mystique and complexity and what can feel like lack of transparency about pricing. And it is complicated, and there are things that don't need to be as complicated as they are. And there are things that will always be this complicated. But we're really looking, and this is, to me, I feel like this is part of my job, and the part of the work of my teams is to get our story out there, and help people understand that there are a lot of pathways to affordability with a St. Francis degree or credential.
Yeah.
So we're trying new things. We've done some pretty significant pricing adjustment for some of our truly workforce development focused programs that get you into the workforce sooner, as we talked about earlier, to where, we've literally cut the cost of those programs in a third. In terms of what students, and not just gross costs, but really what students were paying versus what they are now. And we're looking to do that with other programs as well in the traditional space. Like, how do we really, truly be serious about the fact that we have an affordability problem?
Yeah.
And so we're headed in that direction. And I always, whenever I'm always asking people that I meet in Fort Wayne, what do you know about the university? What do you know about St. Francis? And if anyone ever says, oh, they're expensive, I take that seriously. And I want to be able to have conversations about that while not saying that we can compete with every price.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
sure.
There is we make a value proposition, but I think there's room for us to grow and people understanding it's not maybe what you think.
Well, and I think you have an advantage, a real huge advantage, in that some of the financial stuff is part of your job because it's such a huge factor.
Yes.
Especially with what people are hearing about federal funding, shrinking and all that other stuff. It's one of the key things people think about. Sometimes higher ed pretends that it's not a factor, and it is.
Yes.
So I think there needs to be more transparency in it, and I applaud you for doing that.
Yeah.
By the way, I still don't know what a bursar is. So higher ed also needs
we don't have one. So
higher ed still needs to change the way
bursar.
it talks about that stuff.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Woo. Okay. Last quick hit question. What's something you use that helps you get the job done? This could be a tip, a trick, a hack.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be technology. It can be technology.
Okay.
Yeah. Your secret weapon.
I'm glad it doesn't have to be technology. I don't think I have one of those, but
yeah.
So this may be such a lame answer, but we at the university and our teams, we work within an organizational health model that has sort of a specific meeting structure, and I will not bore you with those details. But one thing that we do on a daily basis within that structure that I think has been a wonderful thing for both the team I serve on with my colleagues and then the teams that I help manage is that we do daily check-ins. And just literally based on schedule, I have two a day because I have one, like I said, with my team and then with the teams I manage. And so the one I do with my team is first thing in the morning, and having a 10-minute check-in with my colleagues, what it does for me is it forces me to plan my day.
Yeah.
I will not show up to that meeting looking at my calendar. Oh, I have this. It has really gotten me into the discipline of saying, what am I looking to focus on today? Because there are 1,000 things I could focus on.
Yeah.
It really makes me be intentional about planning my days. Now, do things go according to plan every day? Of course not. But have I found that it helps me be more productive, more focused, and just more effective? Yes. I think that's been really helpful to me. And then I have one at the end of the day, literally just based on calendars, since I don't do both in the morning. And that has been an interesting had an interesting impact because I'm thinking about it throughout the day. I'm knowing that at this time, at the end of the day, I'm going to connect with my team and I'm going to be prepared to share what I have focused on today. Yeah. And I think it helps me honestly hold myself accountable to staying on task, to focusing on the things that matter. I want to model that for them. I want them to hear I'm not coming in looking, oh, what did I do today? And I think those two things kind of bookends for my day have helped me. I think people are afraid of doing daily meetings because it feels like, oh, that's a waste of time. And I would argue it actually has some pretty cool impacts.
So is the morning meeting, is that you asking others, what are your priorities and how can I help? Or what does that look like?
Well, the morning meeting is me and my peers. So our executive team is coming together. And you are really just sharing.
Yeah.
These are my priorities for the day. It is also a really helpful opportunity to know. I know I will have FaceTime with these people. So we're all very, very busy.
Yeah.
It's impossible for me to get on our CFO's calendar. So I know I'm going to see him every single morning.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage.
Yes. So that helps with, hey, can I, usually the question that concludes the call is, does anyone need anything from anybody today? So that helps. And then with my teams, it's a similar conversation. They're sharing their priorities. I'm sharing my priorities. And then, yes, what can I help with?
Well, I'm one of the more meeting averse people you'll meet.
Okay.
But we just had a mini retreat last week, and it was funny because there's a Monday morning touch base we do that I don't love, but it's mainly because I'm a meeting averse person,
Sure.
and I like to be left alone.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I came into that meeting saying, all right, my goal is that we get rid of the Monday morning meeting. And at one point in the retreat, I said, we should have a daily touch base. And people were like, let me get this straight. You didn't want to have one meeting a week. Now you want to have 5. But it was
like the conversion.
Well, things change so fast. One of my arguments was what we talk about on Monday is irrelevant by Tuesday. People's priorities have changed,
Sure.
and it's part of it is because we respond to client priorities and we don't always know what they are until they hit our desk.
Yeah.
So you're making a case for it with a person who it's hard to make a case for.
Well, we say our goal is that every employee at the institution should be able to proudly or to confidently say, the meetings I attend are an excellent use of my time. And that's a goal of ours. We're not there.
Yeah.
But we definitely, that is very important to us at the executive team level, is for that to be the case. We're not all, I think some people would agree with you, but we're working on it.
Well, the one thing I'll say is that, having been in the working world now for 30 plus years, so much has changed. When I started my career, this is going to date me for sure, but I didn't have an email address and my company didn't have a website because those things didn't exist in the form we know them. Yeah, she's saying, who is this old man? So granted to say nearly everything has changed in 30 years. The one thing that hasn't changed is the things people complain about when they complain about meetings, which tells me there's little risk in trying something new because if they're so fundamentally flawed, you can always go back to what you were doing, but maybe try something different, even if it looks like a little more time, and maybe you get more efficiency, more effectiveness, better relationships, all those good things. Yeah.
All good things.
All right. Well, you've landed on the sneaky reason why I do this podcast, and that's to steal other people's tricks and tips
there
and
you
hacks.
Go.
So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and thanks for doing this. This has been great fun. It's great to meet you and hear about everything you're doing.
Yeah, I have enjoyed this so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.
Thanks for joining us today. Next time, we'll be featuring another great guest, so be sure to tune in. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our show and leave us a review. It really helps others find us. Visit our website at asheragency.com for more resources and updates.